the record I've always wanted to make. When I was a kid growing up, I would hear about bands that I really liked going into these amazing studios around the world. But at the same time, there was a special place in my heart for those stories you would hear about a band going into some old house somewhere or an old church, some space, and making their album there. When you would listen to the record, it would always feel like it was different for that reason. That there was perhaps actual sonic differences with the record, but at the very least a vibe, an X factor to that album that you couldn't quite put your finger on, but that was very likely a result of not just the time, but the space that the album was recorded in. And that was really interesting to me. We're here making an album at the James Beard Gallery in Pooch Cove, Newfoundland. It's a small town on the Avalon Peninsula of the island of Newfoundland. A place that is literally and figuratively on the edge. We've been able to use this space, which is comprised of 3 main rooms. There's an upstairs open concept area which has the kitchen and sort of a living room area all in one, with 3 large bay windows that look out on the ocean, and a baby grand piano. We've been able to use that room for obviously the piano, but drums and bass and different instruments that have sounded especially good because they were recorded in a big room like that. We've been able to record acoustic guitars in the hallway downstairs, different instruments in one of the bedrooms which we use as a control room. It's been a cool experience, and it's great to be able to choose different rooms for their characteristics as opposed to just going in and recording in the one room that you have.
We're basically living, sleeping, eating, creating everything in this one environment. It's not a space that has been used for recording before, and it has a very nice natural verb. It doesn't really sound like anything else, which is great. It's an artist's residence as well, so the whole space is a place to create.
The process of this record was that I started writing it in late 2011, early 2012, and it started with, I believe, Effie, which is a song that was written about the shipwreck of the SS Effie off the coast of the coast of the Northern Peninsula in Newfoundland in 1919. And I wrote it while I was there, and I went to the site where the Effie ran aground and eventually decayed into the remnants that are there now. And that was the beginning, that shipwreck song. And over the course of the last few years, it's also come to encompass songs like The Great Wave or Spire, which are songs that I wrote when I was on tour in northern Italy in 2012, and other songs on the record that were written around Canada as well. And those songs were written in a very artful way. It was experience that immediately translated into a shock of inspiration that created the song. And then the crafting of those songs came from playing them for people and seeing how they took shape in that social way, in that interactive way. And that was really important as well, and really artful. Were this the normal album process, I would have then taken that work into a studio, been really stressed out by it being on a clock, and having to try to capture the best version as quickly and as efficiently as we could of those songs. And it's understandable why that happens. It's happened to me on previous records. It happens to all kinds of artists, really. But for me, it felt like dropping the ball in the last yard, you know. It felt like with all of that great process of creating these songs, it seemed like the capturing of those songs, which is arguably the most important in some ways because it's the part that lives as a moment for a very long time, it seemed like that should be special as well. That should be done in an artful way. And this space has allowed us to do that.
I kind of think of Ian as a songwriter's songwriter, and sometimes that phrase can be misunderstood or misdirected. Not in the strict sense of a storyteller, but more in the sense that there's a great deal of self-analysis and self-examination and reflection in his lyrics. And this seems to be constant in Ian's work. When you pop the CD on, it's like going on a journey. The first song, you feel like you're about to enter the story and the characters, and you're taken on this long ride. It starts off with a lot of reflection, and it ends with even more reflection.
Ian is a singer-songwriter who's, for lack of a better term, is not afraid of his audience. Okay, so is willing to actually interact with his audience. Ian tells the story of the culture from today's perspective. He's able to see things as any true artist does, to be able to look at society from somewhat outside of society, but understand it from within. So the music is both engaging, it's always contemporary in the sense of what it's talking about. And it always relates very well. It's always, and it relates to across a large demographic.
Obviously, he is a writer. You know, he's a writer first and foremost, and the music, the song, is the vehicle which carries the lyric, which is quite strong. And you know, you can see how people like Leonard Cohen or Bruce Springsteen. Cut from a similar cloth. Ian is cut from that cloth.
The title, The Great Wave, sums up the record in some ways. We're recording in a space where I watch the waves every single day. I live on an island where I can watch the waves every single day if I drive for about 15 minutes in almost any direction from my house. We're pretty lucky that way. But the Great Wave, as it's talked about on this album, is more about time as a wave that sort of sweeps through us, over us, carries us, it changes us. And a lot of the songs on this record are about that. It's about the change that comes with that wave, how we deal with that wave, how we're changed by it after it's gone, and how we might be able to improve things for ourselves and come up with a new way to live, because that wave can sweep away what was in front of us, and it can leave a whole new landscape, really.